So I have a reading here on Trump's drug use. The other morning I woke up and the song The Candyman Can was in my head. And I was like, what does this song mean? It felt like it was so in my head when I was waking up that it was like something to examine. You know, I went and looked at the lyrics, and it was like, it just made me think of Trump and drugs. Like the Candyman is a term that some people use for a drug dealer. And the words like, you know, the Candyman can make everything wonderful and rainbows, which we have here. And I'm like, I get so disturbed thinking of Trump as like in the White House doing drugs. It just is crazy to me. And then later in the day, I had the song Spoonful of Sugar in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I have to read on Trump's drug use. And if you know the name Noel Casler, Noelcasler is the last name. On Twitter, he's Noel Casler Comedy. He works in the entertainment industry. He worked for Trump on The Apprentice for all those years, and also Trump's different family members. And he also worked with Trump on pageants. And he's so very outspoken every single day about a lot of things about Trump, but, you know, like that he's a racist, he's a sexual predator, you know, that he had witnessed all these things, and, you know, anti-Semitic, and also very much addicted to crushing and snorting Adderall as well as cocaine, and I believe benzos to come down as needed, that sort of thing. And he says, you know, he broke his non-disclosure agreement. He breaks his, every time he speaks out, he breaks it. And then he'll say, why do you think they're not suing me for this? It's because they know it's true and they don't want it to come out. So it's interesting. If you want, I can put an article below, an interview with him, you know, and decide for yourself. People who know him in the industry say he's, you know, trustworthy and all that. He seems to just be genuinely concerned and angry that this person is leading the country and just tricking everybody the way he does, Donald Trump. So anyway, I really was like, okay, I want to look into, first of all, how serious, like the fact that, I don't know, that those songs are in my head. I'm like, is this getting really, how is his drug addiction like really bad? I mean, if it was bad back then, if it was a daily fix of the snorting the Adderall, he said, will be his just like sort of baseline normal day. Like, how bad is it? And then for me, I'm just like, you know, that he's in the White House all the time. Does he have people bring him drugs? How does he get everything to him? Does he really cut it up and snort it? Noel says that every time he had to go on camera, he would always snort the drugs because he had trouble reading and he would get nervous, and that would help him feel more confident. And so every time, you know, and you know, a lot of other people have noticed it and said the same, the way he sniffs through speeches. And, you know, sometimes he's very agitated, other times, oh, and you can see his eyes are very, you know, he has blue eyes, but they look black because his eyes are often very dilated. And other times he seems to be nodding off a bit. So it's like no real surprise, but I wanted to see what the cards have to say about it. So here's what I got. First of all, the question being, like, okay, is Trump a very serious drug addict? And I get the King of Pentacles covered by strength, which tells me the answer is yes. If you look at this King of Pentacles, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you look at this King of Pentacles and you see this king is just like staring down at the precious pentacle, and there's something very busy and like chaotic in this, when I at least look at this card. Something about this, like there's just so much stuff everywhere. So yeah, I mean, just even the fact that it's a king, that he's got this pentacle on his lap and just not even looking towards us, but at the what I would sort of think in this case, the drug, that he's got the drugs on his mind. He keeps them close at hand. And, you know, as a king of a drug addiction, that's very high-end drug addiction or serious. Strength, you know, strength of the addiction. I also wonder if you look at this card, I can't help but see like Ivanka or some, whether woman or, that there are people who not only, like enable him almost to a degree where it's almost like give him, more, or make sure he gets his, and it's for selfish reasons, like he will be in a better mood, he'll be easier to deal with, he'll behave better at the press conference or whatever it is. I see that there are people, like the way she's holding his mouth, it's almost like take your drugs. But I also think it's signifying the strength of the addiction. I think it's definitely big and bad, and the cards continue to say so. Up here we see the burden. It is, I don't know if it's always been a burden, but it's definitely now a big burden. I almost in this feel like it's on his mind like all the time. So and you see here, which is very interesting, normally this is like sort of the past, the future, but I see this as a cycle. So you see this sleeping, resting, like this would be the down, and then this would be the up. Everything's wonderful. It's just like that song, the Candyman can, like the Candyman, I don't want to sing, but he makes, all the good things happen. He makes everything feel good. I can't think of the lyrics. Na, 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 na. Basically, what this card would signify, making everything sort of seem wonderful again. And then that's his burden in the middle, is needing the drugs to take him to different states that he's comfortable with. He likes to control his states. And I also think he prefers this. He prefers the uppers, the speed, the feel good. And I felt into like when he's down, which I guess sometimes you just need to sleep, but he doesn't like it. He starts to feel like he's like disappearing or something. It gives him anxiety. And if you think of like an egomaniac, you would definitely, if your ego started to fade, that's not fun. This makes him feel big and wonderful again. So weird. And then at the base, I thought this answered a couple questions for me. First of all, this also made me feel like that feeling that he's never quite not thinking about when he's gonna do his next bump or, fix. This is a person who's waiting on something. And it's interesting to me because even as you would imagine as president, you've got your system down with the drugs, that you wouldn't still have this anxiety of like, basically that you would imagine a junkie has, like, when am I going to get my neck? Do I have enough to last me for a while? But you always hear that that's sort of a part of addiction. So I feel that with him. I also you can see this guy has his hand on one of the rods, the wands. It's a crutch. Yes, it's a crutch. He very much leans on the drugs to help him through his day. I also, because I was wondering very much, for some reason, this was just like something I was wondering about, was like, does he do it in front of people? Like the way Noel described it back in the day, he would just, apparently he saw it, like he would just crush it up and snort it. I just can't imagine someone doing that in general, but like in the Oval Office or something. What I see in here is that he either turns his back when he does it, or he does it in private. So I think he does go, like, these two wands, sort of, he walks into like a restroom and does it. So that's what I see. So that helped me in my personal curiosity, is that he doesn't sit there and do it in front of people. I thought I might see like the party card. Maybe he makes a party out of it, but I see him doing it privately, and he doesn't let anyone see him do it. And I see here, this sort of answered my question about like, how does he get it? Does he have a Candyman? Does he have some drug dealer that comes? What I see in this, I believe there are 2 aides. And I don't know if I'm being just very literal based on this card, but I think there's like a young man, a young woman who work for him. They probably worked for him before as well, before he became president, and just like one of like those sort of sketchy types of assistants or whatever who he brought in with him, and that they get it from the outside. I see like a doctor who provides this, sort of one of also kind of that kind of doctor who would provide more, you know, than he should. And I also, for some reason, felt like now, I don't know if he used to have to crush it up, but now it comes to him in like little vials in very finely ground already, and probably has like little spoons. Well, spoonful of sugar, right? Like the song. Like, I don't know if they make like little vials where the spoon's already there, it's already crushed super fine for him. But that's what I felt here. It makes it very easy for him to have it in his pocket. See here, he likes to have it close by, and he just goes into a restroom. So that's what I see here. And what I see here is that he's never, I don't know if this is new, but that he can't get enough. This card upright would be like plenty. I am a person, I have a man who has plenty, 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 and I feel good about that. It's like he can't, I think maybe he's having trouble reaching the feelings that he wants to feel. I was wondering just for a second, could this also indicate, well, this would be the current environment. I just think he's just maybe having to increase his intake. I was wondering for a second, like, could there be an overdose sort of thing to this, but I don't think so necessarily. I mean, plus in that position, you know, it wouldn't say that that's something that's coming. This would be like where he is at this time. I mean, I imagine that well, this would indicate the fear that people have that it could kill him. This 10 of Swords. And by the way, I want to point out there are 3 10s here. I would say, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's at a 10. So, and what else did this make me? Oh, and I thought about the people who are afraid it could kill him. I feel like it's still a selfish fear. It's not so much like we love him. It's how much of a scandal, how much trouble they could possibly be in if this became a scandal and people knew. And, you know, like other people, like, don't, you know, they need him to keep standing so he doesn't lose the presidency. But I feel this is the people who provide for him, like provide him with the drugs, have that fear naturally. And then like the long term, you know, which was me wondering, like, what's going to happen long term? Will we find out? And I see this as it will be exposed. And the fact, well, okay, so it will be exposed. And then at that point at the bottom, I had this 4 of Wands. Interesting. There's a lot of wands, huh? This 4 of Wands. And what I saw in this is I think that he will eventually have to get treatment. This building in the background and the 4 like wands, like sort of keeping the distance, that it's a sort of like rehabilitation or hospital, where like a very high end one where he might have to spend some time. And now I'm stopping to wonder if it's also because I was wondering, is this happening in the White House? I mean, there is a big White House there. I would say yes, it is, and I think that eventually he might have to spend time in a hospital, at least for a while. And then to get clarity on this Sun card, because this can also just be a very positive, happy card. I got the Tower with it, so it's like I do see it as like, it will be exposed when things fall apart for him, which happily it does seem like they are going to eventually finally fall. When things fall, this will be one of the things that does come out. And then along with the Tower, I got this 7 of Wands, somebody will be defending themselves, which means they will say, what did you do? What did you do? And somebody will be like trying to fight off accusations. Perhaps it's one of these people that we see in this card, one of the people who provided him with the drugs. I mean, they would most definitely be questioned and all that. Yeah, so we'll eventually, I think, know more about that. And then at the base, at that time, I had the Magician. And I've gotten this before with Trump, and it made me sort of think similarly as this card now makes me think, which is that, this is like a powerful card, and and the Magician uses every element in his power to have the power that the Magician has. And I feel like that's sort of telling us that drugs is one of the things that makes Trump Trump. It's almost like they have to like paint his face, they have to like sculpt his hair, and they have to put his back brace on him, which I also think he wears a back brace. And according to Noel, they also have to put on his diapers because the years of drug abuse has caused a problem in that area as well. It's like they have to like spend hours like suiting him up, and then the drugs is one element of that to keep him going and motoring, and like this sort of robot that they have to put together every day. So that's what that Magician card says to me. So that's my read on that. Not good. It's not in good shape at all. And, I think eventually, it's so hard because everything is always eventually find out. But it says so here as well, so I'll take it. Thanks for being there for me to share my reads with. And if you had any thoughts on the cards, feel free to let me know below. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.